Alright, today we're going to talk about how you know if they are the 111, because all this relationship stuff can be really tough, right? I mean, how are we supposed to know if this is the right person for us? Marriage is a really big deal. Having kids with someone is a really big deal. And most of us don't get married thinking it's going to end in divorce. And yet 40% do. And do you know why I didn't care about that stat? Same reason you don't. Because you think he's not talking to me. That's not going to happen to me. So let me be clear, no one thinks it's going to happen to them until it does. Yes, I'm talking to you, and if you forget everything else from this video, remember this: you can drastically improve your odds of a mutually fulfilling long-term relationship by 1, picking the right type of person, but 2, just as important, becoming the right type of person. Alright, first disclaimer, quick reminder, this video has nothing to do with perfection, it has everything to do with intention and direction. None of us are perfect. And you're going to hear things today and go, oh crap, I'm not doing those things. And that's okay. I wasn't either. But what we need to realize is that what we don't know can still hurt our partner, right? Ignorance is no longer an excuse. The advice I'm talking about today drastically reduces your chances of getting into a narcissistic or self-centered relationship. This is everything I wish I had learned decades ago. This doesn't guarantee a perfect relationship with someone, but it does give us the tools to set us up for the relationship we deserve. Of course, these conversations are hard. Of course, it's difficult to be able to have healthy, safe conflicts because that demands something from you, like humility and self-reflection and vulnerability and mutual respect from both people. Yes, it's hard, but I've seen what happens when you can't have them or you choose a partner who has no interest in emotional maturity. And guess what? That's really hard too. If you realize you aren't doing something that would benefit your relationship, or you realize you are doing something that's potentially hurting your partner, take accountability and talk to them about it. Go first, initiate, be intentional. That's what this is all about. 2 people who are willing to do the hard work to make this work. Alright, second disclaimer. I do not believe in the concept of the 1, you can believe in fate. You can believe God brought you together. That's fine. But there is no, the reason why that's so dangerous is because it creates a false belief about relationships, that you just need to find the right person, and then everything else will fall into place. All your trauma just magically goes away, all your destructive coping mechanisms that you've built up for years, all the garbage you inherited from your parents' dysfunctional relationship, all of your own baggage, none of it matters anymore. Because we found the one right wrong you aren't waiting around for, someone to come save you and make you whole. And you certainly don't need to be saving someone else your life. And happiness doesn't start once you're in a relationship. That's how we can create unhealthy codependent relationships, where our self-worth and value are put in someone else's hands. And if they don't see us as valuable, then we don't see us as valuable. And that's a big problem. I don't believe great relationships happen by accident. I believe they are built, and that includes the relationship you have with yourself, which plays a larger role in your relationships with others than you realize. And what we don't realize is it's so easy to ignore red flags and not talk about our non-negotiables and not talk about our boundaries in the beginnings of a relationship, because we are flooded with those chemicals we get at the beginning stages of love. So we cannot allow this to sabotage our long-term success. It doesn't mean we shouldn't enjoy it. We absolutely should. But we have to stay level-headed and understand that they aren't always showing up as the real them. And we aren't always showing up as the real us. And we have to do both. Enjoy being in love with each other and show up and talk about what we need. And not be afraid to end this relationship if things get toxic or unhealthy. Alright, so having said all that, let's get into it. What are the characteristics we should be looking for if we are getting into a serious relationship with someone? Or maybe even potentially marrying them? And remember, we shouldn't be expecting things from someone else if we aren't practicing them ourselves, right? Because that's called hypocrisy. And we're not hypocrites, right? Alright, number 1 will always be safety without a foundation of safety. Everything else crumbles. You can't have intimacy without safety. You won't be vulnerable with someone that you don't feel safe with. You can't have playfulness or friendship. You won't have any of it without safety. That means we have to have a zero tolerance policy for physical violence, aggression, dominance, controlling behavior. Yelling, demeaning or belittling words, name calling, those things don't build up. They only tear down love and trust and safety. Who you choose to be in an intimate relationship with is a really big deal. And if they've shown you with their words or actions that they aren't a safe person, I promise you, you can't change them. Stop acting like if you just talk to them different that they would stop hurting you. That's not how love works. We can have empathy for what they went through in their childhood. We can have empathy for how difficult their life is now. But we also have to hold people accountable to hurtful or destructive behaviors. And when you can't do that, or when you don't feel safe to do that, it's always a red flag. that something deeper is going on in the relationship that will eventually erode intimacy, connection, and trust. And I understand how difficult trauma bonds are to break. I understand how difficult it is to leave abusive situations, and you won't find me victim blaming. However, if we're talking about choosing a partnership with someone who is unsafe in any way, my advice would be 100% to step back, make sure you're safe, and get some professional help. Because the sad truth is love will never be enough to sustain a relationship long term, at least not in the way today's culture has defined it. I don't care so much that you love each other. I care about how you're loving each other. That's great that you love each other. Here's a better question. Do you respect each other? Are you kind to each other? Even during a conflict, do you consider each other? Do you prioritize each other intentionally? Are you a peaceful agent in their life? Or do you add to the chaos and dysfunction? Do you truly accept each other on a fundamental level? Or are you both trying to consistently change the other? I think it's great that you have a bond together and you want to continue that, but we cannot forget that abusive relationships have a bond as well. Toxic partners say they love each other. People who are addicted to drugs or alcohol, even people who cheat most of the time, say that they still love their partner, and yet those are massive betrayals that destroy relationships every day. Love doesn't make the difference how you love. The sad truth is, if you want a healthy marriage one day, you have to first be okay with unhealthy relationships ending. I'm not saying that's easy. I'm just saying it's necessary. Okay, number 2. How do we build a climate of safety with each other? Then with consistent trust, respect, and kindness. Pick someone you can trust. Trust means that you believe you can rely on this person, that they have your back, they have your best interest in mind. They aren't going to abandon you, and things get hard. They aren't going to dismiss you when you're hurt, and they aren't going to take advantage of you. Trust means, if I said I'm going to do this, then I'm going to do it. And this isn't about forgetting. We all forget, but trustworthy people own that. Mistake, they apologize, and they show you going forward through consistency that they can follow through on their word. Now, trust can be broken in big, quick ways like cheating or violence, but it can also be broken in slow, small ways like passive aggressiveness and silent treatments and disrespect and dismissing how someone is feeling and invalidating their concerns because they're just being irrational, right? Essentially, trust is broken when you punish someone else's honesty or vulnerability. Once trust is systematically broken, the relationship begins to die. Once you make someone else feel like their feelings are a burden, they will begin to pull away emotionally and physically, mainly just out of protection. Our body knows it's not safe to be vulnerable with someone you don't trust. Your heart knows not to give to someone who is only taking, so it's only natural that you'll start putting up walls, but that only leads to more distance and disconnection. The way we prevent this is by checking in with each other, which we'll talk about a little bit later. So pick someone who you respect and who respects you. I know someone respects me because they want to know my boundaries. They want to know where my lines are. They want to know what I'm comfortable with and what I'm not. Pick someone who doesn't ever rush you sexually, because someone who loves you wouldn't want you doing anything that you're not actually comfortable with. When we respect someone, we hold them in high regard. We treat them like they're important to us. We study them. We learn about them. We pay attention. We care about what helps them to feel loved and valued and what leads them to feeling neglected. When we respect someone, we don't talk down to them. We don't interrupt them. We don't dismiss their perspective. We value them and we show it with our words. We appreciate them. We look for ways to compliment them. Be that type of partner and find a partner who does that for you. And when two people actually do this, like I said, not perfectly, just intentionally, they can create a beautiful, fulfilling relationship together. But when one person doesn't care about any of this, the relationship always fails. These aren't add-ons, if we're lucky to have them. They're essential. They are how love is demonstrated. Next, pick someone who is kind. Kindness and warmth are vital. Spend enough time with someone that you can see that they are consistently kind, especially to strangers and people who can't do anything for them. One of my huge non-negotiables for both of you is that you're practicing selflessness together. Selflessness doesn't mean being walked on. Selflessness doesn't have to lead to you being taken advantage of. It can absolutely coexist right alongside healthy boundaries. It simply means taking the focus off of us and learning how our partner feels safe or loved or respected and intentionally doing those things. It's that simple now. Is that hard? Absolutely, it is. It takes a ton of mental effort and sacrifice and intentionality, and yet it's exactly what tends to make the difference in relationships that go the distance and are fulfilling versus ones that don't. If you're a natural giver, make sure you find other givers to love. It's okay if they aren't as much of a giver as you are. That's a whole different situation than being with someone you believe is primarily a taker relationship expert. Dr. John Gottman, studied thousands of relationships, and he concluded that one of the greatest predictors of divorce is something that we all completely forget about and get complacent about in our relationships. Do you know what it is? Admiration and bids for connection. Couples that didn't make it rarely admired each other mutually and looked for ways to connect with each other. This is what makes all the difference. Now bids for connection means that we are on the lookout for ways our partner is trying to connect with us, because this happens more than we realize. Sometimes it happens subconsciously, but as humans we are wired for connection, and so often our partner is being vulnerable, or inviting us to be playful, or extending an opportunity for connection. And if we aren't paying attention, we miss it. Rarely does your partner go, "Hey, I'm trying to connect with you instead." She says, "Oh my gosh, you have to hear about my day today," but you don't even look up from your phone. Or he tries to kiss you later, but you're still mad that he ignored you when you were trying to tell your story. So you pull away. Now you both feel rejected. But no one has the self-reflection or courage or safety to be vulnerable and talk about what happened and how they're feeling. Do you see how this cycle can destroy relationships over time? One of my favorite G-Man quotes is, "Marriages die in the conversations that never happen." And your argument might be, "Well, she needs to be more direct. I can't read her mind." Okay, but let's go down that path. What if she did? What if she told you, "I don't feel connected to you lately," or It's a green flag when someone asks questions about your experience or your feelings. Instead of just dismissing or defending or validating, it's a green flag when someone validates what you're going through as real, even if they don't agree with all the details. They can still take accountability. I'm not saying that apologize for things that you didn't do. I'm not saying validate accusations that aren't true, but are you willing to take accountability for any unintentional hurt? What that sounds like is, "I'm so sorry, I can see how, when I told that joke about you at the party, that really hurt you, and you felt rejected, that was wrong. Thank you for telling me how you feel." And then we change accordingly, because the best apology is changed. Behavior, lastly, how you manage conflict, is oftentimes going to be the determining factor of whether your relationship thrives or dies. So, learn how to do it respectfully right off the bat. Trust me when I say, it's worth the risk of discomfort to be honest about your boundaries. Because conflict is either going to build trust and connection, or it's going to break it. It all depends on how you both handle it together. Number 4, it's not a red flag if someone doesn't like cats. Cats are very self-centered. They really don't care about anyone but themselves. I'm not saying we should be mean to them. I'm just saying if narcissism was an animal, it would probably be a cat. What's that? I'm being told they're all done with this joke. Okay? We're going to move on. Another green flag is, do they see you as an equal? Because if they do, there shouldn't be any dominance in this relationship. You never deserve for someone to speak down to you, or call you names, or touch you when you don't want to be touched. Dominant people have no issue looking down their nose at you and making those critical and disrespectful comments towards you, but they would never tolerate that same behavior from you, would they? That's the things that you need to be paying attention to. The moment that your partner or anyone talks to you like that and you think, "Man, I would never get away with this," that's a red flag, as in a stop sign that needs to be addressed before it becomes a pattern. So often we stay silent because maybe the trauma that we endured early in our life, we have fallen into a submissive role where you feel like you don't know how to stand up for your needs and you don't know how to set boundaries with dominant people. And I can completely understand how scary that is. I'm just here to remind you there is no place for dominance or disrespect or superiority in relationships. It only has one destination, and it's not happily ever after. You deserve someone who cares about respecting your boundaries. And if you feel scared to set boundaries or be honest about how you're actually feeling, I would strongly encourage you to speak to a professional about that. The truth is, mutual respect is essential. That means treating the other person the way you would like to be treated as well, like you're valuable and worthy of kindness and consideration, because you are. We respect our partner by learning about them. What are their preferences and values? What do they need to feel close and loved in this relationship? What are their boundaries around sexuality, conflict, in-laws? Work self-centered people never think about asking any of those questions, but self-centeredness and love don't coexist. It's a green flag when each partner actually has a desire to feel like a team in this relationship. And teamwork demands that we talk about things like the domestic labor and the mutual chores. It's a green flag when we can check in with each other. "Hey, how are your stress level? Do you feel overwhelmed? Would you even be able to come to me if you felt neglected or overlooked?" I mean, you want to talk about the ultimate green flag that's being humble, enough to invite your partner to be honest about how they actually feel, even if it causes some discomfort in you. And I'm not saying that this gives them a license to lash out at you, or this is an opportunity to put them down. No, I'm saying when you're humble and considerate enough to ask those questions because you truly want to be a safe place for each other that should calm their nervous system if it does, and they're still taking advantage of you. That's when you need to speak to a professional if you actually want this relationship to continue. And the last thing I want to say about respect is it's a green flag when you see them respecting strangers. How do they treat people who can do nothing for them? How do they respect their parents, their siblings, their exes? If all they talk about is how terrible their exes were, and they don't take any accountability for how those relationships were toxic or immature, guess what? You can just replace their name with your name, because that's exactly how they're going to talk about you one day. That's why I always say, you need to be talking about your boundaries and needs early on. That's the best narcissist prevention, because a narcissist hates the idea of you being assertive about your needs and desires. All they care about is control. If you can't be controlled, they will move on, which will sting in the moment, but it's going to be a blessing in the long run. So don't be afraid to talk about your boundaries respectfully. The only people that punish you for that were the people that were planning to take advantage of you. Okay, number 5, are they trustworthy just like dogs are? You thought I was done with the dog thing, but I'm not. Okay, I'm committed to this bit. Alright, I'll stop. But you're going to be disappointed when I don't say anything for number 6 that's on or you. I gotta be honest with you, trustworthiness probably should have been number 1. I'm sorry about that. I just thought of it. So if you could pretend that that's higher on the list, that would be great. So what makes someone trustworthy first? They follow through on what they said they were going to do. Their actions match their words. They are reliable. And if something happens, if they make a mistake, they forget. Of course, we're all human. They own it. They don't immediately blame everyone else or everything else. They apologize and they move on with some sort of a plan or communication for how they're going to learn and grow from this experience that's called maturity too. Are they honest and transparent? That doesn't mean they tell you every detail about their life. It just means they aren't purposefully hiding things from you. Trustworthy people have integrity. That means doing the right thing, even when no one's watching you. If your spidey senses are tingling and this new person seems like they're consistently lying or deceiving you, or something's off, you're probably right. The truth is, trust isn't simply confidence that someone won't cheat. It's the foundation of a healthy relationship, that everything else rests on trust. Is actually a sense of safety and security, that this person cares. If I need them, if I can reach for them, they will be there for me. They show up. I know that I matter to them. So the $1 million question is, do you trust them? It's a massive green flag when you're with someone who actually cares about building trust in this relationship, because that means showing up and putting in the work. It builds trust when we care enough to ask, is there anything I can do for you this week that can help? You feel valued and prioritized, because most of us have never heard that. But that's what love actually sounds like. It sounds like intentionality and curiosity and effort. And let me be clear, I'm not saying that people should say this from a place of anxiety or fear, like constantly checking in. Is everything okay? Do you still like me? Please don't leave. I'll do anything. Of course, that would be a turnoff for anyone that's not maturity or love. I'm just saying that when you care about someone, check in with them, reassure them. Hey, if you need something, if you feel like something's off, I want to be a safe place where you can share that. That's what builds trust. Over time, intentionality, mutual sacrifice, mutual respect, consideration, affection, attention, safety, vulnerability, putting in the work of selflessness and emotional connection together. This is what makes your bond strong. Ignoring this stuff just weakens your bond, and you'll wonder why, years later, people say, we just fell out of love. No, they didn't fall out of love. They never actually had love. They had chemistry. They had passion. They might have had a trauma, bond. They had the bedroom. They didn't have trust or safety. I promise. They never built their relationship house on a strong foundation. Spending a lot of years together doesn't result in connection, does it? That's because it requires something from each of you. It requires protecting against and repairing disconnection, which happens all the time in our relationships. Alright, number 6 is independence. Now it's normal in the beginning. We all want them to be obsessed with us, right? But it's actually very attractive when they don't make you the center of their universe, and vice versa. I mean, just think about everybody so concerned with narcissists. Right. One of the first tells of a narcissist is them love bombing you, showering you with attention and love and praise, telling you they've never felt this way about anyone, right twin flames, all while slowly isolating you from your friends and family. But if you really cared about avoiding a narcissist, then you would slow down in the beginning and maintain your life outside of this person. I'm not saying don't see each other. I'm saying it's a green flag when you can both maintain a life separate from each other. At first, have a great time together, sure, but I have a tendency to throw on my rose-colored glasses and fall in love quick. So if that's you, you probably need to slow down and make sure that you're not making them the center of your universe. It's also a green flag when you can see that they have other healthy relationships outside of this. One, do they have healthy friendships? How do people at work talk about them? Do you feel comfortable around their friends? Because I've seen those alpha male videos where they teach guys how to ignore girls so that they'll like them. They aren't allowed to initiate. They never give a compliment. They play these games where they're very dist. They never text you because that's what they were told. Makes you want them more. This is manipulation, and it's called being an a-hole. And it does work with some women, but it's usually unhealed people who have had some trauma in their life, and they're used to chasing people for external validation of their own worth and value. So congratulations, you triggered her abandonment wound to get her to sleep with you. What a great example of a real man you are. Not to mention that all of these alpha males never have consistent, stable relationships because being an a-hole might attract women. It doesn't keep them all. Right, moving on, I think it's a green flag when a person you're dating has purpose in their life. They're driven towards some sort of a goal. Right, they're already a well-rounded individual. They aren't looking for you to save them. It's attractive when someone doesn't actually need us, even though that seems counterintuitive. That doesn't mean they don't want you in their life, but they don't need you to be happy now. Of course, this can get tricky because some people are so driven, they prioritize work and hobbies above everything else. And it slowly becomes clear that they don't actually want or have time for a real relationship where they need to put in the effort that connection requires. So that's just something that you'll have to decide on your own. Alright, number 7, let's talk about some green flags around personality. Everybody's personality is different. I get that. But when it comes to dating, I think it's a green flag when they are flexible in nature that they can compromise. I think it's super important to pay attention to how rigid people are. I'm not saying they're wrong to freak out when plans change. I'm not saying that they're a bad person when things don't go exactly the way that they wanted to. There's a lot of people who are neurodiverse ENT and they can't help it, but it's still something that we need to pay attention to because it might not be a good fit for you. For me, it's a green flag when someone has an attitude of gratitude. Do they tend to look out for things to be grateful for, or do they tend to filter through the negative? Do they appreciate life, or are they just so stressed that they can't go a few minutes without complaining? I think it's a green flag when someone's intentionally appreciative. They go out of their way to offer encouragement. They're supportive, they're generous, they're thoughtful. You told them about your job interview tomorrow, so they texted you an hour before and said, hey, you're going to knock it out of the park. I'm really proud of you, babe. These are the little things that people fall in love with. These are the little moments that build the most trust and help us feel loved and supported. It's greeting them at the door, giving them a hug goodbye. It's playfulness, it's your humor, it's having fun together. It's intentionally setting aside time to reconnect through talking and touching and doing something with. Them doing the dishes so they don't feel like it's always their responsibility. Learning about their dreams and desires and needs. This isn't the extra stuff. This isn't going above and beyond. The experts all agree. These are the essentials. The bottom line is who you choose to be in a serious relationship with, and who you choose to give your body to, and who you choose to marry and have kids with is a really big deal. And even though I've never met you, I really do care about you, and I just want you to be set up to have the most fulfilling relationship possible. And some of that is becoming the right type of person, and some of that is choosing the right type of person right. And what we don't realize is some of you have never experienced actual safety and trustworthiness in a relationship. Sometimes we need to realize that we're attracted to what's familiar to us. So let's be honest with ourselves. What are you familiar to being told that your feelings are a burden, working hard to feel loved and accepted, always being the one that sacrificed for others, giving, but never receiving, because we are naturally drawn to what we know. And if subconsciously you know you aren't too needy again, and when chaotic relationships are familiar to you since your childhood, it's easier to get with people who take advantage of you. And eventually you leave them because they were a narcissist, or they abandon you because, well, they were a narcissist, which reinforces your belief that people can't be trusted. Or instead of being clingy and needy, you might be more emotionally distant. You might struggle to feel feelings. You might not place much value on those. You might not get too close to people, except for in the beginning, because you like the initial feelings of connection. But you were taught in childhood that you couldn't really depend on anyone for anything, so you don't. And eventually in intimate relationships, it's not long until you feel like your independence is being threatened, and you'll feel smothered by their neediness or their feelings. You'll feel like you got in too deep, and they aren't going to like you when they find out who you truly are. So it's best just to end things now, and you bail. You find a reason why you have to get out of this relationship. And you do, sometimes you come back, other times you don't. This is half the population we're talking about. And in all those scenarios, regardless of how you show up, you're just trying to stay safe. You're just trying to protect yourself from pain. Sometimes by being hypervigilant to any disconnection, and other times by creating disconnection so you don't feel so smothered. but neither is actually emotionally available or vulnerable or self-reflective. The solution is getting to the root cause of your fear. The solution is acknowledging that you might have some trust issues, or that you have commitment issues, or that you tend to use relationships as a way to feel whole and needed and valuable. And that's normal given what you have gone through. But remember, healing is still our responsibility. And if you find yourself asking, how come every guy I did is a narcissist? It might be time to ask, why am I so attracted to narcissists? The solution is a balance between having our own separate lives, but also feeling safe and connected together as well. And if we need more space, if we need a little bit more alone time, that's okay, we can ask for that. And if we need more closeness and intimacy, that's okay. When we're in a reciprocal relationship, we can ask for those things, and we won't be punished, because we trust each other, and we feel safe with each other. But anxious hearts need to remember, yes, safety comes from consistency on their end, but we can't make them the complete source of our own safety. Right. We need to also do the work of feeling safe inside of ourselves as well. The solution is admitting that we can all be conflict avoidant, and it's easier to be critical instead of vulnerable. It's easier to give the silent treatment instead of talk about how we're feeling, because either we don't feel safe or they have shown us that they aren't a safe place for us to do that. This is about exploring why we shut down during conflict, because we can choose not to continue to do that. But it takes healing. The solution is learning how to be emotionally available, how to discover and identify what you need in a relationship, to advocate for those needs in a respectful, kind way, to learn about your fears and to be able to set boundaries even with those that you love. The solution is realizing what role we're playing in our own function, and holding ourselves accountable. This isn't something that happens overnight. This is an ongoing journey that we're all on now. Some people refuse to go on this journey, and their relationships always suffer. So choose someone who is at least mildly interested in walking this healing path with you, because love will always come with a risk of pain. We can't fully love without being vulnerable, which means taking off our armor and standing there exposed and saying, I'm willing to show you my scars. I'm willing to open up. I'm willing to take this risk with you, knowing I might be hurt. My advice, if you truly care about each other, if you truly want to make a lifelong commitment to each other, when someone is willing to take their armor off, for you learn about why they had to put it on in the first place, and show them they don't need the armor with you, because you're safe and gentle and trustworthy. Number 7, choose someone who is your friend. Now, I have to be honest a little bit. It makes me throw up in my mouth a little bit when two people are like, oh, my partner is my best friend, but they're right when I think of a great relationship. I think of a great friendship. Everything I've talked about today, safety, trust, respect, playfulness, empathy, that's a great friendship, right? Friends care about each other. They're kind to each other intentionally. They protect the friendship subconsciously because they don't want stupid things to drift it apart. Great friendships don't have a power dynamic. There isn't a giver and a taker, right? I mean, we might be friends with someone like that, but we would never describe that as a fulfilling friendship. Great friendships are resilient. They've been through some stuff together. They've seen each other at their worst, and they still say, I accept you. I love you. That's safety. Great friends can call you out on your crap, and you listen because you trust them. You know they have your best interest in mind, and you accept their influence. And it should be no different with your partner in great friendships. It's not a competition. We celebrate each other's wins, and we grieve losses together as a team. We are each other's cheerleaders in great friendships that actually have a foundation of trust and safety. We forgive each other. We extend grace. We start with the benefit of the doubt. And we say, hey, this is the story I'm giving. This helped me fill in the details because we believe this person didn't intend to hurt us. That doesn't mean that we're still not hurt. It just means we recognize it wasn't done maliciously and we forgive. That doesn't mean we don't talk about it. Doesn't mean we suppress those feelings. Doesn't mean we don't set healthy boundaries. It just means we choose to forgive because we refuse to allow bitterness and resentment to take over our hearts and minds towards this person. And because we know we will eventually need forgiveness as well. Right? Can you imagine a relationship with someone like that? Because it's possible, but it takes us becoming that person and then choosing someone who meets those values as well. Who you choose to be in a relationship with matters a lot, and who you choose to marry matters even more. This is your time to be selective. You get a choice of who you want to be in a committed relationship with no one is forcing you. And I'm certainly not trying to give you anxiety about this choice. The goal isn't anxiety. It's just discernment. So many people feel trapped in a toxic relationship they feel like they can't get out because they're financially stuck, or they feel like they've put so much into this relationship it's hard to give up on it. But I'm just warning you, pay attention to the warning. Signs this is your life. We're talking about this is your future. Kids' lives. There is no benefit to marrying someone if you don't feel like this relationship is healthy. So often, our relationships with others are like a mirror showing us our relationship with ourselves. And so many of you are settling for toxic partners because that's what you experienced growing up. And no one has reminded you that you deserve so much more than the bare minimum. You don't deserve to be yelled at, or disrespected, or belittled, or neglected. You don't deserve to be dominated, or dismissed. Your voice matters, your needs matter just as much as theirs do. And this also isn't about certainty. Maybe you're considering marrying someone, but you're just not sure that's okay. You don't have to be 100% sure. That's why I made this list. If you feel like they're checking boxes off these lists, if you feel like they show an interest and trust and respect and kindness, you don't need to be 100% sure. You'll never be 100% sure, and that's okay to feel nervous about such a big commitment. This isn't about someone meeting all your needs all the time. They aren't supposed to meet all of your needs. They're supposed to add value to your life and vice versa. They're supposed to be your friend and your lover and your safe partner. They're supposed to be trustworthy and respectful and kind, and those things aren't going above and beyond. Don't let culture fool you. This is how love is demonstrated. Pick someone who agrees with that. Definition, if you agree with it. Because I know that if two people are intentional, if you're both on guard against the normal things that cause couples to drift apart, if you're both attempting to be self-reflective and considerate and sacrificial when it comes to how we prioritize each other, you can do this. So schedule the check-ins with each other. Practice having the hard talks where you're learning how to listen and stay engaged and seek to understand each other's perspective, learn about them, get on the same page. Heal from any emotional baggage, your trauma that you have. Practice having those respectful conflicts. And remember, you're on the same team. Act like it. Thank you so much for listening. I hope this was helpful in some way. Congratulations if anyone is engaged and watching this, and I'll see you in the next one.